It is 5:06. I will now call to order the April 13th, 2015 meeting of the East Hampton Conservation Commission. The meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns or non-agenda items? A non-agenda item?
Yeah, just I live across from the pond and wondering how they're gonna sort of keep track of who's using the pond, I'd like to keep it non-motorized.
Well, we can talk about the regulations for the pond when we get to the permit application for that.
Okay.
Okay?
Is that the public concerns you're looking for? Or?
Well, for that's an agenda
Oh,
item,
okay.
so we can bring that up after the fact. Actually, I'll take this opportunity. So the Conservation Commission has authority under the Wetlands Protection Act, which is a state act, and the Wetlands Protection Act regulations. So our authority is limited to the performance standards for the wetland resource areas that are present within the project area, and stormwater management under both the Wetlands Protection Act regulations and the city's ordinance. So we have to limit our discussion, our jurisdiction to our purview as it's established. So we can, and if a question comes up that's not relevant to our jurisdiction, then we'll talk about how it's not or is.
So the boat ramp is not.
It is. It will be. We're just going to get to that hearing. There are things that we can entertain and things that we cannot entertain as part of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
So, okay. Terry, are you
Yeah.
ready? Okay. So we'll now move on to public hearings. Notice of intent, Mass DEP file number 151282, filed by the City of East Hampton, the Water Lane, Town Beach, Nashwanik Pond Fisherman Access Facility Improvements. And we have a letter, the legal notice was published.
These are the
notifications.
Notifications when we came back.
Okay.
So I'll just introduce myself first. My name is Terry Smith. I'm from the Office of Fishing and Boating Access. And so we're within the Fish and Game Department, and our role that we serve for the Commonwealth is to provide fishing and boating access into the rivers, ponds, lakes, all throughout Massachusetts. So we have 300 sites in the state, and we're basically a small group of engineers. We do the design and the permitting, to rebuild facilities, to construct new facilities, like in this case, and work out land management agreements with cities and towns so that we can have a cooperative relation with the local communities versus some state agency in Boston or whatever trying to take care of something here in East Hampton. So our program's successful through that management, where it's the management on a day-to-day basis is at the local level. So at the onset of this project and before we took upon the design for this, we worked out an agreement with the City of East Hampton as to what our role is basically to do the design, permitting, pay for the project, so there's nothing that's coming out of the town's pockets for the construction of it. And then going forward in the future, if it needs to be rebuilt, we go back to the legislature for money to rebuild it. The town's role is the day-to-day management, picking up the litter, keeping the site clean, and then they work with us if it comes to enforcement issues, like as to when the gates get closed, when if there's things going on that shouldn't be going on. The benefit here is the site's been used by fishermen, by boaters already, so it already has a historical use which is consistent with our agency. And the benefit to the city having an agreement with us is we have a series of regulations that are specific to our agency that are Code of Massachusetts regulations that are when we formalize a site, and it puts them into play as to what the facility can be used for. Its intended use is to launch and retrieve boats. It's not a place for people to loiter. You know, in this case, people can fish from the shore. That's a consistent use, but, you know, go hang out there and, you know, use it as a picnic area is not really consistent with the use of the facility. That would be better done in a town park as opposed to the, you know, boating or fishing area. So basically that kind of covers what, you know, what my role is. I worked out the agreement with the city. I did the design myself. I know I saw this lady out at the site when I was doing the survey. I tried to address, you know, and speak with people when I was out there doing the survey work, and just the curiosity as to what's going on, and people had questions, so so I tried to answer them. So feel free to ask. Their job's to review the Wetlands Protection Act with what I filed on behalf of the city to make sure that it conforms to everything in compliance with the wetlands laws. But if you have questions regarding the management, I'll try to answer them the best that I can after we get through the wetlands and the stormwater management questions that these folks might have for me. So.
Okay.
And actually, before you go on, if anyone, is everyone signed in so far? Thank you.
Sorry. 4 years.
Okay, so yeah, Terry, if you could describe the proposed activities
Okay. Basic.
and how the work would occur and
Okay.
that sort of thing.
See if I can pull out the plan here. And you guys have copies of the plan. Basically what I apologize, I can show you if you want to see specifically in color on the computer. But basically, you have the parking area that's at the top of where people park now, that's above the gate. And then down below the gate, what we're looking to do is construct a driveway that goes down to a boat ramp. So the boat ramp will go out into the water. The driveway going down to the water will be paved. And then there'd be 4 parking spaces down below next to the water. We have to provide handicap accessibility to the top of the boat ramp. So in this project, in order to do that, we have to keep the handicap spaces and the parking associated with that down close to where the ramp is, where the site's flatter because of the steepness of the grade going down. And then we've designed up near the top where the parking area is, we've designed some stormwater retention basins to collect the stormwater that is in the upper part of the parking lot, so it doesn't run down to the pond anymore. It'll be collected there and allowed to infiltrate into the ground. And then in the lower area, again, we have down there a means to collect the water off of the paved parking area before it flows into the pond. And then we have a flood storage area that's shown on the plan, which is necessary to compensate for some of the fill in the parking area to build the plans to the correct grades. I don't foresee any, looking at the site and the layout out there, there's really no clearing that's involved, so we're not proposing to cut any trees or anything along the shore. It's basically the clear gravel area that's kind of eroding down now is to improve that. Everything outside of the parking areas that we're proposing will be loamed and seeded and basically put into a grass condition as opposed to what's out there now.
What about the cement pad that's there? It's about 2 feet high.
There used to be an old beach house
right.
or whatever. We're not getting involved in the demolition in that as part of my work, if that's something the city wanted to try to coordinate, undertake with us, we'd be willing to work with them on that, but it's not something that I'm proposing gets taken out as part of the work that we're doing.
Quick comment. So the commission, Terry will speak, we'll ask questions, and then we'll open it up to public.
Okay.
No? It's okay, it's fine.
It's okay.
Just follow protocol.
And I guess to address them on part of the, well, it's when we were discussing it, I mean, that would be something that, we would entertain with the city. We have to do a little bit of sidewalk work with the concrete. My thought was not take it out, that there could actually be an improvement done with it to resurface it, and it might be something where the city wants to put a bench or something. That's up to you guys, but we can work that out.
That's up to,
Yeah.
Well, it's not up to me, it's up to the
It's up
mayor,
to you,
really.
right.
So,
It's
Well,
not- it's not up to this
we
board.
could discuss that, and
We could-
that was one of the things that I looked at, and why I'm
Sure.
not proposing to just demo it and get rid of it. And then there's erosion controls and everything that go along with the project that are shown on the plans. In terms of the construction, this is something that we're hoping to do a majority of the work ourselves. I'll be here with the equipment myself, so I've had the benefit being able to design it and then actually come out, run the equipment. We'll basically get the site all prepared and ready for it to be paved, and the paving will be done by a contractor that works for us, or we would put it out to public bid for the paving portion of the work. But everything else at this point, I foresee that we'd be able to do, and we would come in and build the boat ramp as soon as we could.
So 2015 construction?
Yeah, I'm hoping to build the boat ramp actually before the end of our fiscal year, which would be before the end of June. And then the paving work, where we'd have to hire a contractor, that would be something that we would try to do before the end of fall, so in September.
So you noted that there are precast concrete sections for the boat ramp?
Mhm.
So there wouldn't be any pouring?
There's
concrete
only,
on site, or is it limited?
there's only one in the detail that I showed. There's just an anchor slab, which basically.
So that would get poured and
Yeah,
cast in place?
that would get cast
Okay.
in place.
So limited.
So we would come in and set all the precast pads, and then the last thing we do is we form and pour what we call an anchor slab. It basically keeps that, the precast ramp from shifting around at this time of year when the ice is melting.
Do you have a detail for the erosion controlled area? What do you think would you use a straw wattle? Or
We
is there a
have-
note on
They
this?
they have straw bales and then
Okay.
straw bales and silt pins.
Okay.
So the straw bales inside of the
So
silt
that's
pin.
what just put in?
Yep.
And then the turbidity curtain?
And turbidity curtain is something that we own ourselves, and it's a full depth turbidity curtain, so it has a floating boom. They're just like
Floating
what they
booms and the
have,
weights?
just like what they have out for the project out front here, that yellow curtain. We own one of those ourselves.
Would that be in the entire time, or that would go in,
That would
And the-
go in while we're building the boat ramp.
and then once you're done with the
And
boat
then-
ramp, you would
And then once,
go across?
yeah, we would put the barrier across. So it would just be while we're doing the work, let everything settle out, remove it, and then close in the silt fence and hay-bales across the top of the ramp.
Are there any questions from commissioners?
In between when you do your work and the paving contractor comes in
Mhm.
next year, would you do anything like interim to stabilize things?
When I say next year, next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Which would be like,
July.
after July 1st. So it'd be, so if we came in, I would try to time this so we would come in, build the boat ramp hopefully in June. And then we'd go away for a little while.
Mhm.
And then come back once I can get a paving contract put together, have that out to bid, And then once I was kind of firm with when a paving contractor would come in, I'd come back and do the work on the parking lots. And
Your concern is whether it's stable in that period of time.
Right.
so that's kind of what our plan is that we wouldn't leave the site like in a condition where it's real disturbed in a length of time before it would get, stabilized with the paving and stuff, so.
Yep.
So sequentially, kind of tagging onto that, the installation of the gate at the top of the driveway down to the ramp, that would be
That'd be-
before or after paving?
That would be done as one of the last items.
That would be one of the
It would be
last.
after the paving.
Okay.
That will be done at the end as well as the concrete sidewalk along the road.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna put the sidewalk work as, for the paving along, or the concrete sidewalk along here in the paving contract. Just simply because the guy that does concrete for us, that works with me, he's gonna be out of, he got hurt and he's gonna be out of work for a little while. So I don't really have enough manpower for us to do that, so.
And loaming and seeding happens at the end as well. as far
And then,
as
the
actual paving.
the loaming and seeding,
So I guess the question is, what's gonna stabilize the ground surface, the unpaved, well, any ground surface?
Any ground
in that
surface, right.
period of time? I know you've got the erosion control barriers, which is, they'll remain in place.
Yeah.
But I guess,
Well, I guess what I'm proposing is that I'd come in and build the boat ramp, which is the precast. I would utilize the existing driveway, which is gravel going down there, and not disturb anything else until.
okay, I see what
Oh,
you're saying,
okay.
okay.
Yeah,
I got it.
yeah.
So you would wait,
So I'd
basically.
come in and get build the boat ramp. But I'm gonna need a gravel road or driveway to go down, so I get the gravel base in for the driveway itself. And then once I was kind of had an idea in terms of when the pavers availability would be, then I would come back and excavate the basins and
Okay,
and
that
the
makes sense.
side parking.
Okay.
And then work your way up.
Yeah, I don't wanna go and disturb the whole site,
Right,
leave it
that's
open
what-
for
that's
3
right.
months and then not have a paver come in.
And then I guess kind of, how would the city intend to keep people from trying to access it? Would the boulder, or whatever the blocks are there now, would those remain in place to prevent people from
I would
using
suspect that-
Yeah.
boat
Yeah, I
ramp?
mean, this is gonna be under the jurisdiction of Parks and Recreation, once it's completed, and so we'll have to have a conversation with John Mason. If you wanna put something in the condition somewhere that dictates what needs to happen during that time frame, that would be helpful, I guess, if needed.
So
That
from
some
my-
barrier needs to be put in place.
Yeah, so from like my construction standpoint, I would just leave the gate and everything that keeps people like up in this area. The only difference between after building the boat ramp and doing the work in the driveway is that it would be left with the gravel driveway going down instead of the eroded soils that are there now. And it's up to the city at that point. The project at that point would be, you could just leave the gate closed the way it is. And people can park up at the top and we won't disturb what's up at the top. And this may be kind of a moot point, if we get to the end of the fiscal year, and we have some other projects finishing, where we have monies available for me just to keep working. So that's kind of the situation, is I have to rent some equipment, come out here, do a little bit of work based upon what we have for funding now. And then when we get into the new fiscal year, we'll have a new allotment of money to hire the paving contractor and stuff like that. But it's not unusual, like last year, at the end of our fiscal year, when we did the oxbow over, that was something that was like totally unexpected, pulled together in the last month of the fiscal year, just because we had some monies that were available from other projects, so.
How much excavation do you think will need to happen for the paved part of the project?
For the paved part, they had the quality estimates. And then basically the materials are for the flood storage area. For the flood storage area, we're talking about 100 yards of material, roughly. There's a chart here that shows the proposed fill. The paved areas of the parking lot, and basically take out the upper area where the turnaround is basically take out a foot of the material that's there, which is kind of a gravel hard pack. And the grades proposed up in the turnaround area aren't really much different than what's there now, other than we're gonna put in 3 inches of pavement, so I'm gonna take that grade just about, and then be down 3 inches with the gravel for new pavement. And then the driveway and the parking area, the section that's this area here, the lower part of this is all, this area here is, and looking at the cross sections, this area in here is a fill, but then you're into a cut as you come up the slope and into a cut in order to create. Right now the site slopes up continuously, so to reduce the slope as I go up the hill, I have to cut into that. And I'm somewhat limited as to how much material I can remove because there's a drain line that crosses there, which, so I'm not trying to do a significant amount of site work when it comes to in the paving area itself, because of that drain line needs to maintain a certain, a couple feet of cover over it.
And what will you do for the parts that aren't going to get paved but will get seeded? But
They're going to be lawn area.
was I understanding right that you'll grade some of that before you put the seeds in, or you'll just
It'll be
seed it over
great.
right
No, it'll be graded to the grades that are shown on the plans, but it'll be a loam layer down, and then grass seed spread and allowed to grow up. But the grades coming in from here are there's a little bit of a fill coming in from the top in order to create this bioretention area. And then when you get down about halfway down the site, then the grades pretty much match what's there now. Then you go down further and you have an excavation that's for the flood storage area.
So basically, anytime you're working in floodplain, all the performance standards have to do with no net decrease in flood storage capacity. And this results in a net increase in, the way the grading works, there's a net increase in flood storage capacity. So that performance standard's not a problem.
So I guess the simplest way to explain it is the turnaround area is not going to differ very much from what it is. Then we're going to have these basins. There's going to be a little bit of fill that comes out in the site, and then it's going to go down a little steeper into the flood storage area. And then on this side, pretty much limited by where, by the top of bank. When I get all done out there, if you were to look down where this parking area is going to be, the grade is going to be a little bit flatter than what it is now. So.
Do you know if there's been any discussion with the city or Parks and Rec specifically about signage in terms of posting hours, seasonal and then in-season daily hours versus, as well as the regulations for the pond about type of boats?
The signage is something, like, we have formal signage that goes along with our site, so like the signage that would go here, we generally put up a big kiosk, which is like 6 by 8, and it has all our rules and regulations. In this case, it have sign that say, electric motors only. In terms of daily operation of the facility, unless the park department regulates it, we don't really have specific, and that wasn't something that was spelled out in our agreement with the city in terms of, you know, it closes at dusk or what, or anything like that.
So I think that would be a question, it's too bad Jessica just left,
So-
that would be a
so-
question I'd have for the city.
Can we revisit that one?
We can, we're also gonna make a note of it in the minutes.
Oh, good.
Um,
That's important, yeah.
Definitely, so, does anyone else have questions?
My only concern is that, is just, what are you, so loaming and seeding is gonna happen in, say, October or November. It's late in the season. So coming back, is there a plan, or would we make that one of our stipulations that you'd be required to come back in the spring if there's any
Yeah, we
maintenance?
would stabilize the site, you know, in the fall if it was, you know, beyond the growing season. If necessary, we would stabilize it with straw.
Yeah, and then just come back if you
And
needed to and
then-
reseed or whatever.
Yeah,
in
and
the
then in
spring.
the spring, if, you know, we gotta give the grass a little bit of time to grow in the
Sure.
spring. And then touch, you know, come back and touch it up, so.
Okay.
That's also something we cover under the standard conditions for the stormwater ordinance, about how long the site can be left destabilized before interim measures are required.
Okay.
Interim or permanent measures are required. Because obviously erosion at the site's been a concern.
Mhm.
You know, and again, I mean, I guess the benefit, like in this project, is I'm gonna be the one that's doing it, so.
Yeah, no, yeah, I understand. I
So,
just-
so it's, I'm not gonna be trying to track down a contractor who might get, you know, have some other project they need to finish for the fall or something.
Okay, yeah, we have your number.
Yeah, my number. And
Yeah, I got a question about the actual ramp itself. Is this stormwater report, does that take into account like the opening of the ramp without any sort of mitigation measures as to like if anything's coming down the slope and there's runoff happening? Does that go into this one, the way the grading's gonna happen?
half of the driveway, the driveway has a crown in it,
Okay.
so the driveway's crown, so anything on that plan, anything that's on this side, the way the contours are is the water runs into this corner and there's a berm here. So there's a little bit, there's an area, this half that comes down, and it'll go down the ramp. There's really no way to
Yeah.
avoid that.
Okay.
Everything else is, the upper area here, this sheet flows into the retention area to infiltrate, and then everything coming down the driveway here is gonna head into this. So when I did the stormwater calculations, my point of analysis was at the boat ramp, because that's, you have to pick somewhere at the downstream side. And so when I did the calculations, I looked at the peak flows of the existing site at that point, and then I looked at the peak flows after that. At that point, that was my point of analysis. You know, again, the benefit here is right now you have a whole site that's 100 feet wide or say, and everything is just running down there untreated. So I have this, a little bit of pavement that I can't catch what I'm catching,
Right.
you know, leaves.
99% of it.
Yeah.
I guess two things related to that. On the different stormwater areas, they don't have outlet structures or level spreaders or anything like that, right? It's just,
The outlet into this has a level spreader going into the forebay.
oh, okay.
So it's a 10-foot opening in the berm, and then it'll have a rock level spreader going into the forebay.
Okay.
The other area is the bioretention area. You're gonna have the edge of pavement, and then you're gonna have a 5 or 6 foot wide grass strip on this upper part,
Yep.
where the water coming here is just gonna sheet flow into that.
Okay.
So,
And on the outlet side, it's just,
and on the outlet side, I'm basically using the swale or the bioretention area. If it exceeds my storm event that I've sized that for, it's basically gonna act like a weir and overflow. But in my calcs, handling the in the details I have for the bioretention area, the volume handles a 10-year storm.
10?
10-year storm,
storm.
but that's not considered any infiltration. That's just the volume of the basin and compared to the volume of the runoff. It's not, you're gonna have water infiltrating at the same time that it's collecting.
Yeah.
So I'm being a little conservative there in the water quality swales. The water quality swale in that calc is similar. It handles a 10-year storm before it overflows, but again, it's not taking into consideration any infiltration.
Yep. I guess my next question is sort of related, and I think you're okay on the topic, but this area is in a zone 2, so the higher recharge volume, of an inch applies. I don't know. It looks like the calculations and everything were based on a half an inch, but it looks like with the volumes you have adequate recharge.
Oh, for the
volume.
recharge, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because that was the dictating factor for this site.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. It'd probably be nice to have a revised page of the stormwater report that just,
Yeah, let me see.
So the majority of the towns map this as zone 2,
Okay.
so.
So, revised page, what page is it?
It would just be in my calculations, so it'd be in the stormwater section 4,
Okay.
and it'd be there's a hand calculation that I did. It'd be standard, what is it, standard 3?
Standard 6.
I think
I think it is 6 sensitive areas.
standard water quality volume, standard 4.
4. So, stormwater section 4.
Stormwater
It'd be
section.
standard 4.
Standard 4, got it. And showing 1 inch of,
Oh, here we go, using half-inch rule, is that?
Yeah.
yeah.
So it doesn't have, there's no total number, but it's the half-inch versus 1-inch
Yeah.
presumption.
okay.
And I checked the numbers and it seemed like the basins were a little bit oversized, for
Yeah,
just the.
the recharge volume, if I double what's there, I have 338
Yeah.
338 cubic feet. So if I double that, I'm gonna be at 676, and my basin volume is 945, so
So there's still a.
there's still sufficient volume.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I wouldn't have cut it either, but.
Any other questions from the board?
If he does it the sequence that he's saying, that should keep the erosion under control and barriers, and it looks good.
And I honestly hope that I can just continue, and then we get to a point where I can just bring in a paver.
Right.
But I can't say that 100% certain at this point because it's a budget issue.
But if you're only disturbing the ramp until you get to that point,
Yeah,
then
that's
you're protected.
just the gravel, worst case, or minimal disturbance at this time would be the ramp, excavate to get a gravel driveway in, and then leave until I can come back a few weeks or a month before the paving contractor could come. So,
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, with that, turn it over to public questions, comments. Sure, if you
I
could
have
just.
2 questions.
Sure, if you could just state your name for the.
My name is
minutes.
Guru Karam Singh Khalsa, and I live at 27 Water Lane, Sioux.
Okay.
Since this project is under Parks and Recreation, why isn't the ramp being built in the park side instead of a residential neighborhood, right where there's residential homes, and then there's street parking there? There's not much street parking in that neighborhood. I mean, so if this is a park and recreation project, why is it not being built in the park, on the other side of the park, on the other side of the pond there, instead of putting it in a residential neighborhood?
Understood. interested. I'm gonna, since that's not within our
I can try to
purview, I
answer that.
can ask Terry to answer that.
Yeah, I'll answer. When we were contacted about the project, it was, we were contacted about two years ago to come, and the city has this property, I think on the other side of the pond is a cemetery, right?
It's park.
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 Well, in any event, the city came to us and said, we have this site, it's historically been used for fishing and boating access. At one time, a long time ago, it used to be used as a beach. The city didn't have the resources or funds or whatever to improve the site, so that's where we came in, is we're basically a funding source to make improvements at the site. It's a compatible site, it's historically been used for that. So when we signed an agreement with the city, it would, parking is always an issue, but it's also key for the type of facilities that we build. So the city was pretty upfront, like not to, they don't want off-street parking and anything like that. So we specified in the agreement how many spaces there would be, and then it's in a matter of an enforcement issue after that. So that's where the city comes in on a day-to-day basis. If those, we're perfectly content with the number of spaces that are there. If it was to get too busy, then the city has control over it locally, and they can just say, look, the 7 spaces that are here or 8 spaces that are here are full.
So
That's it.
who's gonna police that?
The enforcement can be enforced by the environmental police under our regulations, and it can be enforced locally because it's a CMR under the police regulations. Where right now, the way it is, it gets pretty heavy use because I see it myself when I was here surveying. And you only have a little bit of parking there now. So we're not increasing what's up at the top. We're moving some of the parking down below, which the city thought would be beneficial because it would be further away from the road. And then we also have to meet the handicap accessibility requirements. So the city approached us with the idea of trying to improve the site just simply because of the condition that it's in now. And what we're charged with is consistent with what goes on there now. So no one really, I've looked at the sites on the other side, and quite frankly, if we were to have been proposed something on the other side, we would have probably had to walk away because there's no, it's not, this is something that we can do for an a reasonable amount of money. Where development of a totally new boat ramp on the other side for the amount of spaces that we're talking and the size of this pond, it would just not be really it would be somewhat cost prohibitive for us to enter into an agreement with the city because of the size of the pond. This is something that's there. It's fairly simple to develop. When I'm all said and done with the project, I'm probably gonna walk out of here with a bill with the paving and everything, probably less than, probably $80,000-$90,000. We have 8 spaces, and that's about $10,000. We value our facility based upon the number of spaces that we have. So in this case, $10,000 of us per parking space kind of falls into where it is. If we go to the other side of the pond and we get 8 spaces and spend $300,000, we just would look at it and say it's really not it's not cost effective to do that. So
Some of the questions that I have, I think probably are better pointed at the woman who just left.
Okay.
So,
And do you mind just stating your name for the record?
Lauren Simmons, I live at 21 Fairfield Ave.
Thank you.
So my concern, is the traffic, and once the spot looks great and people say, oh, let's park, people are gonna come in. So I just wanna know what processes are gonna be put in place so that the people who are most affected by the traffic in that neighborhood, we know what to do, and we know who to talk to and to address the issues. I mean, I think it's a great idea and a wonderful thing for the town, but not everybody in the town has to deal with the not so wonderful aspects of it. And I just want to really understand who to direct those issues to. I know that one of our neighbors has already had the unpleasant event of having kayakers use her backyard to defecate. So that's something that, no one wants to see.
That's something that shouldn't happen, period.
Right. So I don't know, is there going to be another meeting that's more directed at that type of discussion?
I don't know. You're right, the city planner would have, and she,
should've nailed
if
the
we
door shut.
wait, she had another meeting to go to. I think she can come back around 7 or so, she indicated. I know. So maybe we can keep fielding questions for sure. What we might do is pause on the topic, if you're okay with that, Terry, and then deal with other stuff. And if you all are willing to wait to see if she comes back around 7, you can ask her those questions.
What is her name?
Jessica Allen. So we can do that. We can just move on to other business if you all are kind of have the time to wait. But otherwise,
I have a question, I think, for your department. My name is Sue Curran. I live at 27 Water Lane. I was just wondering if the pond is going to be dredged again?
Not anytime soon that we know of.
That's good, because it disturbs all the little critters.
Right. No, that was a one. Well, it hadn't been
They did that
dredged
on
in
a regular
ages.
basis for a while, didn't they? They did. I heard that they did that once.
Maybe
In the
historically.
old days, yeah.
Right, and then it hadn't been dredged for a very,
Good.
very long time, and the effort was actually quite a large dredging project. Do you remember the volume?
It's 55,000 cubic yards.
So a lot, but that meant that it would probably last a long time. A number of measures have been taken in the watershed to minimize the sedimentation, the input of sediment. So.
Okay. Also, I'm assuming they're going to continue to stock the pond with fish.
I would assume so. I don't know of any other change. I don't know of any changes in pond management. But one comment to add to your concern about dredging and the effects of dredging. This site, if you look at aerial photos over time, you can see the delta forming as erosion occurred, as the site was eroding because people were backing their vehicles down it. It was destabilizing the site, which is why the city went and put boulders or blocks to prevent vehicle access, and that upset a portion of the community who couldn't carry their boat down.
Right, and this project will actually help.
It will help with that.
Help resolve that because of the detention basins that he's designed, and they're all bioswales, and that will collect all that sediment before it gets to the pond.
Well, I'm aware that a lot of the chemicals that people use on their lawns cause a lot of this algae and stuff. And it seems like something that you just can't fight, because I think so many people sort of in the neighborhood, all the rainwater washes it into the pond, and it's just a never-ending battle. That's my understanding. It's so sad. It would be so wonderful to swim in that pond, and it seems like it's never gonna happen.
You could.
So dirty.
Actually, I don't know if you can.
Really?
What's that?
I don't know if swimming's actually allowed in the pond
Yeah,
at the
I
present
wouldn't-
time.
I wouldn't even worry.
No, I don't let my dog swim in it. It's so poisonous.
The Nashwanik Pond Steering Committee is still active, and that's another group in town that, again, all these projects and efforts take a lot of people's time and money to fund, and so they're all usually looking for grants and opportunities there.
And they were instrumental in approaching, the city to come to us, and there has been some meetings leading up to the design as to, what actually is, what's the city looking for? We're open to it. You call this out, we'll give you our ideas and stuff. So they've had meetings about it. And I know that some of the people, when I was out there surveying, there was some folks who had participated in those meetings early on.
Yeah, and I think they have other pond management things that come up from time to time. I don't know what they're planning right now, but they try to do things here and there as they can get money for it too.
So So one thing that I do have in my mind is requiring that there be posting of the local regulations as well as the.
On that kiosk.
Yeah, as well as the state, because there is a local regulation that says you can only use an electric, is that right? You can't have a gas-powered
Right.
Yeah, you guys
motor
have
on your boat, and that's
bylaw,
be,
no combustible engines.
that's
So
crazy.
we posted as part of ours anyways, that
Okay.
and when that's the case, it just says electric motors only.
We have to let electric ones in, huh?
Do they make noise though? Electric ones, they're quiet, right?
They don't make noise,
They don't.
and they don't go very fast. They only use them for fishing.
Oh, good, okay.
So you don't disturb the fish?
What's that?
So they don't disturb the fish?
I think it's to stop them going to the back of the boat and keep pulling it every time you want to move.
All right, the extension.
There you go.
They're gonna run the extension cord from your house.
Not a problem.
And we're stuck up there.
Yes, sir.
Mark Maynard, 16 Fairfield Ave. I'm not sure if we're going to cover this later, or will there be posted times allotments for actually using the boat ramp? And
Well, there will be, there's a gate there will ultimately be a gate that locks at the top of the boat ramp, off the semicircle
Which was
parking area.
intended, just so we're clear.
So it's
and I don't
seasonal
wanna-
and not-
Yeah, that's a seasonal,
Okay.
that it's closed for a seasonal period in the winter time. You know, we don't want people driving out there with their cars on the ice. But
Because
there's,
they would.
but there's, yeah. Well, and then I'll get hung. That's what I've been dealing with over to the Oxbow. We put a new gate in now, and everyone's up in arms. Just for their safety, we put it in. So, but in terms of the hours, there was nothing in our agreement with the city that was never brought up in terms, because I don't think that there's hours on it now.
So that's a topic to bring up with the city planner, and/or John Mason at Parks and Rec. But Jessica might have already discussed that with Parks and Rec as part of the expectations for the site. And so hopefully she'll come back. Are there other questions of them? Times and times. So if everyone's. Does anyone else have anything that's come up since? Okay. So I guess what I would suggest is that we just kind of table the discussion until Jessica's return, or unfortunately people have to start leaving. We do have a couple of outstanding questions. I don't want to close the discussion for the night.
Gotcha.
So I guess I just wanted to table it, but my thought is that we would continue it.
20 minutes from now.
Well, no, but to the next hearing, to the next meeting date. At the end of the evening, we would continue it to
Why do we need to continue?
questions about operation, daily operation, and then the revised
The revised sheet.
stormwater calc.
Okay.
We couldn't continue it for 20 minutes from now.
And we would continue it for 20 minutes and then continue it again if she's not here.
We'd have to.
Do you want to do that? Continue to 7, but if she comes back sooner, we can't.
Got them cooking bars.
Well, you guys take the rules seriously.
I know.
why don't you send out for pizza and we'll
That's a great idea.
How would that do well in this environment?
Oh, wait, the door's
Wait, here
open.
she is.
Oh my God, here she
Yay!
comes. Perfect
It's not going to get any better.
That was my real plan, to waste enough time to get her.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
It was a brilliant move. There are a few questions that aren't really.
Keep that.
Everyone was really happy to see you.
Nobody's ever happy to see me.
So
Except my children.
Except the kid, yeah.
About it.
There are a few questions that you could address, that we can't address, but that you might be able to address.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I
Hi,
live
Lauren.
at 21 Fairfield Ave. My concern is, what are the processes in place for problems that arise? Because there will be, 'cause she said optimistically.
I think it'd be the same as any other park. If there was a park in if there was an issue in Millside Park, if there was an issue at the boardwalk, if there was an issue at Nonotuck Park, you call the cops. So, I mean, I think that's the first line, and if something becomes a persistent problem, then Parks and Rec has a very good relationship with the police department. We have security cameras up at several locations where there have been persistent problems. So if there becomes a persistent problem, the city will address it. I'd say in the meantime, you'd follow the protocol like you would anywhere else. You'd call the cops.
So if parking were to become a problem where people were parking in front of houses and along the street, call the cops, and then ultimately, if it was persistent, they might put up signs that say, don't park.
Yeah, it would have to go through a city council process. There was another location in the city where people were parking to access the mountain and causing problems with access to driveways. And so the city council took it up under I think it was the property subcommittee, and they did put up signs and increased enforcement in that location for parking. So if it becomes a persistent problem, then the city will go through its the protocols and mechanisms in place to address it.
Right now, there's a trash barrel that gets picked up regularly by the city, and I'm kind of safe to assume that will continue, that
Yes.
trash removal will?
Yes, it'll probably, Parks and Rec will add it to their list of, their circuit that they do at the end of the night where they're gonna, John's not here, so I don't want to speak on his behalf, John Mason, who's the director of Parks and Recreation, but I believe his intent is to shut down this park at dusk like any of the other parks in the city, that there will be no more activity on the pond.
Like fires down by the side of the water? Which
Again,
happens
call
the cops.
Call the cops, call the fire department. There's new bonfire regulations in place that I heard one of the fire, the chief, not the chief himself, but one of the firefighters talking about. So, that's outside my jurisdiction in terms of regulation. So call the cops, call the fire department if those activities are happening.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Other questions that we could address?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that, will there be a posted time on, like hours of operation?
I believe that's John's intent. I don't know what they're going to be at this point, and it may be similar to the other parks where they close at dusk, so that time changes depending on the season.
And that's not a problem, it's just that we're kind of just concerned that, if it is a little bit more convenient and cars can go down there, it might be a little drinking spot after you're fishing for the day, you can hang out and, do a little bit of drinking and stuff, which happens anyway.
I was gonna say, are people drinking and hanging out there now?
Yes.
Do you call the cops?
Yes.
When we see it.
Okay,
But
so,
it just might be a little bit more of an encouragement, so to have
I
people-
actually tend to think that those kind of illicit behaviors tend to not happen when a place is improved. Teenagers don't like to be in places that are,
Yeah,
that
I'm
have
not
been.
talking teenagers.
Okay. We've had some of the same sort of activities happening behind the mills, and as we improve that area, those activities disappear. So the more improvements and the more formalized the place becomes, often you find those activities diminish because there's more eyes on it, there's more people that are going there because it's an improved location. People may have a tendency to now go there more frequently and boat because they can access it easier. It's hard to say, but
Our
typically,
regulations prohibit everything.
any of those
They
activities.
prohibit everything.
They prohibit everything that you brought up, but it does, and I'll be honest with you, the success of it comes down to the management, the enforcement aspect of it. We have, Southwick at Congamon Lake was one, it's a classic example for us. It's a state-owned piece of property, it was just an open area that went unmanaged. The town of Southwick took over the management, through an agreement with us, and now it's one of the best-run facilities that we have in the state. You get a parking number, this is a space you go and park in, and it's not a hangout place, but our regulations prohibit alcohol, prohibit fires, prohibit a lot of other things that become a nuisance for the neighborhood. But again, it comes down to the local.
We're gonna have to form the Gladys Kravitz Society.
Will that be posted?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, and they're actually, it's a CMR, 320 CMR, which is actually enforceable at the local police level too, so it's not.
I'm sorry, what
You
does
gotta go-
CMR mean?
Code of Massachusetts regulation.
Thank you.
There's a whole bunch of them.
There's a ton of it.
More
So
than
it's not
320.
something that, it's like, the local police should be telling you, okay, you're gonna call it environmental police because it's a state public access boating and fishing facility. It shouldn't be the local police do a good job, does a good job helping out at our facility down at the Oxbow to the best that they can. And
I have
the
one
things
more town question. What, are they gonna do anything about like the cement pad that's there and the dead tree that looks like it's gonna fall over any second?
There's
That-
a dead tree that's gonna get removed,
Oh,
I
good.
think, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was-
Okay. The
No,
pad?
dead tree.
Dead
Oh,
tree.
Dead tree.
The cement pad, the old boathouse.
There's been no
foundation.
discussions on the city level of removing the cement
So you're
pad.
just gonna go around it with the
I
improvement?
mean,
It's, the
designed around it.
turnaround's gonna go, is basically gonna go where the turnaround is right now. It's gonna go around and I'll have discussions with the city, but I have some ideas as to how that could be reutilized or improved.
And
That's why I didn't wanna just go and demo it as part of the work.
Can you share those?
Well, one thought that I had is we're gonna be doing the sidewalk in front of it, and that the sidewalk tied into it, and that there could be a concrete slab poured over it, so if they wanna put a bench or, something, an area in there, that you could do that.
I guess what it comes down to the city level right now is if it's gonna cost us money to do something, the chances of us doing it are pretty unlikely. Unless there's a grant money that's gonna pay for it, the city does not have the resources right now.
Don't have a gazebo slush fund.
We do not have a gazebo slush fund. Unless Parks and Rec has, they have money, but I can't speak to Parks and Rec, it's not my department or jurisdiction, I don't know what his budget looks like, so. But from just the general fund, we're heading into an extremely tight year, and there is not gonna be any extra fat for anything.
Well, I'd rather have the
So-
potholes fixed than the slab.
Well, there you go, those are the choices the city has to make, unfortunately.
So, and actually, just to be clear, that concrete pad, if this is what I'm looking at right here, is outside of the buffer zone, which means it's outside of our jurisdiction.
Okay, so we can have that
So you
conversation
you can do
offline.
whatever you want with that concrete pad without
As
coming
long
back
as they
to
don't
us.
dump it down into the water.
That too.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Kim Webb, 16 Fairfield. So knowing that the city's budget is tight, who is maintaining these areas you're putting in? So the Park and Rec has this in their budget to come and, we have loamed areas and stuff, so they're gonna be.
They're fully aware that this is their project that they're taking over and have been at the table since the city signed the agreement a year and a half ago. So
So it's in their budget to add the extra time.
I don't know what his budget looks like, but I presume that he added it, yes. So he knows that it's his responsibility once it's built, so.
Can you refresh my memory? This fell within the open space and recreation plan update, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so
It's in there.
it was part of that one too.
Check it off.
I have one quick
Yes.
thing. I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. If it becomes successful, and there's 8 spaces of cars continuously, toilet facilities. Will there be a Sani-Cam put there or something like that? I mean, because right now, it's not too bad of a problem, but a lot of people can't get down there, and the cars are way up near the road. So.
And the trees are being used quite often.
I will
mention Barbara's backyard.
I will take care of that.
Thank you.
Our agency will take care of that. We provide them at a number of our facilities.
Okay, and again, it's only if it becomes really successful and it attracts more people.
We'll just add it to our list from the beginning, but it will go from, because I know what happens. But just so so you understand, our season goes from May 15th to September 15th. So that's the period of time where we provide them at our because the intended use of the facilities for fishing and boating, once you get to either side of that, you're starting to get into, like now.
So if any facility that was put there would not be cleaned after September 15th?
It
Would
would
the gate
be,
be closed?
They'd probably be taken out. They wouldn't want to leave it over the winter.
no, the gate wouldn't be closed because there's not that, but the, either.
Sanitary facility, would it be removed from the site
It-
till
yeah,
the
it would
following
be
year?
it'd be removed from the site. and-
For the winter?
Yeah, for the winter.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
after September.
So
But
right,
you said yours is seasonal, so does that mean the gate is gonna be open beyond your season of May to September?
that's not our season, that's the season that we provide. That's the heaviest use of our facility, so that's when we provide, that's when we
Sanitary.
provide.
Sanitary, yes.
So what is the
Portable.
season for the gate to be open?
Again, that's a Parks and Rec question.
We get a lot of ice fishing on that pond
Right.
in the wintertime.
They're gonna have to walk in.
They do walk in.
Yeah.
The gate itself, I'm not gonna get into specifics about that, because as I said, that the intent of the gate is to close it for the season when it's, when the ice is forming, and then to open it when the ice melts. The operation, we need to have some discussions in terms of the operations of, like, the from dawn to dusk, because that wasn't spelled out in our agreement with the city. So if we need to add that, we'll need to amend our agreement, just so that it's clear to everyone.
I'm a little confused. My understanding from what you're saying is Fish and Wildlife was gonna set this up and construct the boat ramp, and then I understood that you were out of the picture, but you're saying that's not...
No, we never go away. We never go away.
You're gonna remain
We-
involved in
Yeah,
the
we're,
running of it.
yeah, when we sign an agreement, it's basically the agreement remains in effect with the city. I don't want to say in perpetuity, but until it will be mutually dissolved by both of us, and I don't foresee us going away.
Oh, well,
So
that's good.
it would be hard to dissolve. But no, we're involved in the continuous,
Long-term maintenance.
long-term,
Okay.
at 20 years down the road, 25 years down the road, this agreement spells out, not the city coming up with the money to build it or make improvements, us. So
I see.
that's how it works. The benefit to us is we're not going out and spending $500,000 on a 1 acre piece of land that's on a pond.
Okay, good.
So
And
it's, yeah, so they do the long-term maintenance, the city's responsible for the day-to-day.
Day to day,
Yep.
I see.
And just to clarify too, the gate closes off the ramp and the 4 or 5 or however many is lower spaces, but the upper spaces, the 4 upper spaces are still
Yeah, that's right.
accessible.
So the gate, the new gate that's gonna go in is where the existing gate is now. So like, if someone wanted to go ice fishing there, they could park at the facility where they park now, and then walk down. We don't want to have it so that the gate's open, someone could get the idea to drive their
Drive on
vehicle
out
out
there.
there. Yeah.
And the porta potties get maintained by you?
They're like,
Personal.
not personal.
We've got a guy for that.
But, no, we have a statewide contract
There's a lot of
with,
hats.
we have a
Everyone's had-
we have a statewide contract with, for the facilities. And I would say that we probably provide, like, out of our 300 facilities, we have 80,
Yeah.
something, maybe 75, 80 porta potties that we provide, and they're cleaned twice a week, and they're handicap accessible.
Great.
So
Oh, they are, they're handicap
The
accessible?
bigger size, but again, that's from May 15th to September 15th, the busiest time of the year.
I have another question on parking. So you said there's 4 spaces down below, one of them is a handicap, so there's 3 plus 1 handicap space?
There's 3 plus 1.
Okay, and then 4 above. And is there any parking for boat trailers, because they bring their kayak trailers and stuff?
The area that's down below is for parking with people with boat trailers.
Okay.
And then the people with car top boats are to park up at the top. Those are regular single spaces, but the spaces down below are 40 feet long versus 20. So if someone comes with a little aluminum boat, or they come with a trailer carrying 2 or 4 kayaks or something, they park there. Everyone else should park up to the top. It'll take people a little while to figure out what we're trying to do there, but that's the way it's designed.
The stage where you come and do the gravel and do the pads, what's your best estimate on how long that part of the project will take?
I would
to
say
complete?
with that'll probably be probably 2 weeks would be a little, allowing me a little bit more time. I can build the boat ramp in a couple of days, but where I could excavate and put gravel in and stuff, that might be another.
Okay, well, I work at home and I have lunch around 12:30 if you want to come over.
Oh, Okay.
I'm right there.
Oh, work faster.
But it's, and the other thing too is if something, I'm getting calls, we put a gate up over to the Oxbow, and all week people been flipping out, because I was over there with a contractor last Monday who was taking down erosion control barriers, and people saw the gate open, and then when he left, it closed. And then we have people calling our office, complaining we're restricting access. And it's like, no, it's kind of for your safety, but by all means, you have the ability to call us too. If there's something that's, a long time problem or whatever, then, we're another ear, besides the city, if you can't get in touch with the city. We have a means, we work closely with the environmental police. And so if there's issues that warrant, special attention or whatever, we can try to address those maybe a little bit more than what the city might be able to.
You do it all.
But that's it. That's how our program is successful. Honestly, is that we have a good, and I feel comfortable, working in this town or this city with, that we have a good relations with the city, versus, I was in another city this afternoon in the eastern part of the state where we've had a long-term relationship, and the more that we interact and cooperate with one another, the more successful it is. It's not just a site out in the woods where kids go and hang out and it's forgotten about, because it's a piece of state-owned land. We don't treat it that way, and, we want to be involved. It's hard for me to go to a lake and gain access if I have 10 access sites or 15 access sites that are within 20 miles that are not successful, or that there's bad things going on. So we want them to be as successful as we can in order to gain access into other places. We don't want someone pointing at Nashwanet Pond saying, how bad
Well,
it
you really
is.
screwed up there, didn't you? You don't want to hear that.
So, I mean, some sites warrant criticism, but we're, when it's brought to our attention, we try to address it. There's only 4 of us that cover 300 sites in the state, so
Wow, that's a lot.
we, what we do, what we can. That's why it's important to have that working relationship with the local community, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, that said, I think the things that you came back in the nick of time to address the questions that you needed addressed that we couldn't.
So the only action I have is to revise that calculation sheet.
So we can make that another condition?
Yep.
Do we need to continue on that basis?
No?
Because, okay.
Not if someone makes a motion to that effect.
I'll move to issue an order of conditions for the project before us that we've been discussing at length for the last little while.
Oh,
Just with the condition that you provide an updated sheet relative to the Zone 2
I'll
question.
second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So our next meeting is April 27th. We'll have the paperwork ready to sign at that time.
Okay.
And
Or I could just drop it in mail to you if you don't want to.
if you don't
Come
have to
out.
be here.
You don't have to
Okay.
be here, so I can mail it to you if that's easier. Just
That'd
let
be
me know.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you
in. Thank
very
you all
much.
for coming tonight.
Thanks for
Appreciate
answering
your
questions.
comments.
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, we're not getting the pizza?
We're getting a free boat ramp. We're not getting a free dinner.
What are your windows there for people to charge up their electric boat?
Yeah. We could start a pizza concession for the kayakers.
There you go.
So lemonade and.
Yeah, we'll just take a different time slot.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
We'll look a lot
Appreciate
better
it.
when it's done.
I think so too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
And I'll be in touch with
Have a good night.
Yes.
once I get the order.
Have a good night.
Yes. Go home to your family.
One thing that
If they're
it
gonna be
didn't
awake.
come up is I did get the file number from DEP.
I mentioned that early on. There were no comments, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we did.
282?
282.
Talk to you later.
Thanks,
Okay.
Terry. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
All right, I just have to take care of this.
So someone else
I think she'll have to
make the
read it.
motion? When someone else hears somebody mention combustible motors, does anybody else picture a motor spontaneously bursting into flames?
No, I don't.
Internal.
Internal. It's not the motors that are combustible, it's the fuel. How's the ordinance written exactly on that one?
No combustible motors.
But it's never combusted yet, I guess it's okay.
Right, we're still good. All right.
Sorry, I'm
We need
just,
to move on.
let let Ashley know that it's not working for her to come, for her tracking template. Okay, so moving down the line, we need to schedule a site visit with Mr. Gall for 37 South Street.
Again?
Well, we
okay.
have, this is the spring checkup on the
Very-
enforcement
very
order.
cool.
Nice.
Very-
So I will endeavor to make that happen before the next meeting. And.
Make it?
to-
Low blood sugar?
Fine. No, I'm
Do you
good.
need food? I have some in the room.
No, I'm fine.
Bless you. We're falling apart. So just to summarize for you guys, since you are new to the commission, violations were observed on Mr. Bernie Gall's property at 37 South Street, which is also his residence. We issued an enforcement order, and so we're going to be following up on the mitigation that he was required to perform for doing work in riverfront area without a permit.
Stop with the pen.
Stop biting your nails.
Okay.
So compliance updates, anything happening on, oh wait, that's not yours. Mount Thomas Estates, permit's still valid through October 10th. There's,
I drive by it every day, there doesn't seem to be anything going on
okay, the Paul Street Extension, Gillian Estates,
Nothing.
Pleasant Street Mills.
Bid opening on the 22nd.
there. All right, bid opening, all right.
Something to write.
Even process, all right, let me fix this. Bid opening on the 22nd. of
April 22nd?
April 22nd,
What time?
2 p.m.
It's exciting.
Very exciting.
Okay. Glendale, Loudville, West Pomeroy Meadow intersection and roadway reconstruction. I have not seen anything happening out there. Nashwanik Mills, 15 Cottage Street. Did you ever send me that picture?
Yeah.
You
I
did?
sent to the email.
Yep.
You gave me.
The
Oh,
commission
okay.
email.
All right.
Okay.
I'll go in there and send that to them. Because we
Still
have
no.
not received any.
No. So what do we want to put, shall we just say that Colleen submitted a photograph of what was it exactly?
And on the absence of sedimentation control barriers at the inlet of a direct discharge to the stream.
When did we look at that? That was like
That
a
was-
month ago, right?
It was after our last meeting.
It was like
Which
2
was
weeks
like-
ago, wasn't it?
Because remember, we didn't have a quorum at our last
Oh,
meeting.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Um,
Average our answers we
Good luck.
So, are you okay for me? Nashwanik Pond Promenade Park. They removed that tarp that was on the ice outside the work area, so no harm, no foul. Before the ice melted and it went into the pond.
I told them 3 times that day, so they were.
And then Dan emailed them the next day because it was still out there
Oh,
when
no,
I
I
drove
called
through the
them.
next day. Oh, you called them?
Oh, yes.
Well, I think, he tried, he knew he was needed to go out, it was still stuck on the ice. It was stuck on the ice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
so.
I just didn't want it to, the ice was starting to melt.
No, we know.
Yeah.
Got it. All set.
Can we rewind?
No.
Are we done with that topic?
Can we, I don't know, can we, where are we winding
Who's
to?
on
I'm
first?
still on Nashwanik Pond.
I was going to rewind to Glendale, Loudville, West Pomeroy Meadow.
Oh,
Do-
yes, okay.
Should we ask, has anyone asked Jim where that is? Because did I think the project's finished?
It's kind of punch list level now.
But it's been that way for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah,
yeah.
well, it may not be done. maybe.
I don't know what they could have done over the winter
Yes,
either.
yeah.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
just,
Frozen,
we're just
so-
thawing out.
And
so.
they have the BBW replication area that they need to monitor, and the Phragmites control.
You
Yeah.
should ask Jim though what the schedule is now that
Yeah,
spring is here.
I mean, we were trying to chase things down like long before it ever snowed or froze out there, like October or September, I feel like,
Okay,
perhaps.
I'll email Jim and ask him for an update. So Connecticut River Oxbow boating access facility, Terry said the contractor is taking your
Taking out
neutral
the-
barriers out, so hopefully
So-
he'll submit that paperwork to close out the permit soon. But if anyone has an opportunity to
I'll swing by.
swing by and take a
Looks
look,
like,
that'd be
yeah.
great. No further updates on Brickyard Brook. And no further updates on Mr. LeGrand. So down to general business. Do you have a copy of it?
No.
I mean,
Let me see if I can.
would you be so kind?
Mm-hmm.
So, we did a site visit to, were you here for the forest cutting plan at all?
I think it showed up before I
Okay.
left, that's what I was
That's
looking
right, it was
to see.
February.
Right, if there was a.
We sent a letter and followed up requesting a site visit to clarify our understanding of the scope of work and proximity to resource areas. We did that.
That was 2 weeks.
That was 2 weeks.
ago.
And
Yes, you're
it-
right.
I said it.
Yeah. So, basically met out there with a representative from the forester who's going to do the cutting at some point in time for Bernie Gall, to review resource areas and existing stream crossings. So there are multiple culverted stream crossings from agricultural days.
Sorry, it's very loud. Why is
Where's
it
the
showing up?
Smithsonian brick?
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so Florence Road.
The little Smithsonian brick that he has,
Is this
So-
all our stuff?
belongs in a
It's all
museum.
my, yeah, it's all, that's where all the Concom files are.
So Florence Road?
Florence Road,
I haven't noticed that before.
and then it should say Gull. Better Gull.
Yep.
Okay, so there's a response letter with today's date on it. Should be. So Dan drafted and I took a crack at just a response, official response to Bernie Gall saying, based on our observations, we believe that this work qualifies for the exemption in the Wetlands Protection Act. If there's any change to the scope of work, please notify us at least 72 hours before work begins. But one thing to note is there are, even though the Mass GIS, the state mapping of wetland resource areas shows wetlands out there, they're even more extensive than shown
Okay.
on that plan, and a lot of it is forested, and there are potential vernal pools.
Okay.
So that's just kind of to keep in mind as the property moves ahead. So I guess if anyone wants to take a look at the letter, I intend to send it, finalize it and send it off tomorrow.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure, it's short.
Dear Mr. Gall, the East Hampton Conservation Commission conducted a site visit during the evening on March 30th, 2015. During the visit, your forestry contractor showed us the proposed areas of cutting, timber landings, and access routes.
Did I even get the name of that guy?
No.
I didn't get his name, but he works for Mike Warzel.
Okay.
Generally demonstrating that the work would require no new temporary crossings of wetland resource areas and that undisturbed buffers to wetland areas would be maintained. At this time, it appears that the work proposed qualifies for an agricultural exemption under the Wetlands Protection Act. Should any changes to the plans be proposed or new information become available, we would appreciate a 72-hour advance notification so that we may confirm consistency with exemption requirements.
So just to close the loop, and then I'll put everything in a file in the files, and if there's ever a question about what was submitted and what was done in response, it's there. Okay?
Sounds good.
Draft local wetlands protection ordinance. So in an anti-conservative movement. I printed copies for everyone because I couldn't get it together to finalize and take one and pass it down, please. It looks cool. So this is basically where things stood at the end of the last effort to generate this information 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago. 2011? 2010?
2011. It says
4
so
years
right
ago.
It says on the top anyway.
That's what it says? Okay, that must be it. So if everyone would just be so kind between now and our next meeting to read through, make comments and suggestions. One question I think that we had kind of outstanding, or that we wanted to refresh our understanding of, was if we were to impose a local fee schedule, what guidance from the city planner, local ordinance expert would be.
Yeah, it has to be whatever it would take to do the processing from a city staff standpoint, or
Okay.
so if there's, butter notifications, or if there's something that the staff would need to do, sort of the cost of our time to process the application. So for zoning, they usually run anywhere between $100 to $150 per permit. The stormwater permit is $300, but it's $100 if it's a smaller disturbance area.
So when drafting a fee schedule, should it take into consideration what effort it would take for a conservation agent to do that sort of thing, and
Sure.
not just, okay.
Yes.
On
Whatever city time, whether it's a conservation agent or my
Whoever.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever staff time it would take for enforcement of this at the local level. Just processing the paperwork can take us several hours sometimes, depending on if we've got to make copies for different boards for review, and, so.
On the commission's email page, there is somewhere on there, I'll find it, there's an actual discussion. Someone, like 3 or 4 years ago, actually went and asked every conservation commission what their fee structure was, and he put it together into a table.
Oh, that's ringing a bell.
So if you want, we can look at that and see what the averages and reasonable ones are for the
Yeah.
communities around us. And
My biggest thing would be that it's simple and clear.
yeah,
Because I've seen some that are just
a flat fee number, no calculation
No,
based
no.
on.
yeah,
right.
no, and I've seen some that are very nuanced, and you call and ask, and the paid agent doesn't know how it's supposed to be properly administered. And so they just
Right.
pick a number and you document it and you go with it.
yeah,
So-
simple's best.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, never mind. Discuss it next week. Thanks, Tom.
Next. I have not gotten anywhere with the Manhattan Rail Trail. I think we probably just need to meet with Barb and talk to her. So Borchowski property?
Yeah, I actually ran into Rich Lumabar today, and he's going to try to schedule time with Pat Bruff to fly the drone.
Great.
So, I guess Barbara contacted him as well, in addition to us. So, so he's gonna take that on, and he's he's got some preliminary trails sort of mapped out, but, they need that information. He said he had DPW approval to use their land, and I said, I'm not sure whether the conservation restriction allows any public access to that parcel, so we needed to go back and take a look at that, so.
Do we have the CR for?
I do, I have it.
Okay.
I have all that stuff, but.
And this is for Borkowski, is that where we're just?
Yes, yep.
So
So he's gonna take the lead and schedule time with Pat Bruff to fly the drone to take some better pictures,
To
so we
get
can get a
better
better
aerial.
assessment.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything on Echodale West Orchard?
No, and honestly, I'm probably not gonna get to it until the boardwalk's done, so.
When
it'll be a couple
that's end of
months.
fiscal year?
It'll be done by June 1st.
So do we want to call this summer
Sure.
2015 site
Yeah.
visit?
Sorry.
Okay, you're one person.
Exactly, it's fine.
So the meeting minutes approval, March 9th and 23rd, 2015. Do we have copies of those?
I had
I
March,
didn't see the 23rd go by.
Oh,
wasn't that the one that we,
yeah, that's the meeting, that there was no quorum,
okay,
so there were
so-
no, weren't you gonna write up that we didn't have a
I
quorum?
was going to, and I didn't.
So we'll move that to
You
the
can call them
minutes.
meeting notes,
Here
you
I
just can't
sit.
call them minutes.
Okay,
ah, there you go, that makes sense.
I don't think anyone wrote anything down.
we just need to fill the gap
Yeah,
in our file.
I can do that.
Okay.
I'll do that.
We
Remind
didn't
me.
do that for any of our meetings that got canceled due to snow over the.
No, because they
No.
were canceled.
They weren't
Yeah, and
advertised.
normally what I do for planning board is I just take the agenda and I just write on here, meeting canceled due to whatever, and I submit it to Barbara, so she's got a record of that it was canceled.
Canceled, okay, right, but so for this one, because we actually just didn't have a quorum, you actually have to write up a meeting note saying this meeting did not occur due to.
But there was some limited discussion, there was just no deliberation.
Correct.
So I think you should still write up what you discussed and just call them meeting notes, so that you have them in your file in
Okay.
case there's ever a question.
Yep, Dan will.
Dan will, okay, sorry.
Well,
All right, so the meeting minutes for June, or for
I think it was just
March.
kind of some historical
Here. Okay, well,
background
that's-
information on the projects that were open.
And also, these are the Nashwanet Pond weekly reports for filing.
Yeah, good. We'll file them. So do we have a copy of the March 9th meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, we
Yes,
do,
we
I'm
do.
sorry. All right, so who was present for that meeting? I know I was, but do we have the appropriate?
I was there too.
I was there too.
Okay. So would anyone care to make a motion?
well, sure.
At the end, though. We're at the very end.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from March 9th.
I second.
All those in favor?
I.
So moved.
I abstain.
Can you write that, Jay, abstain?
Yes, I actually will. 'Cause it's-
Because it's, okay.
Can I,
Any-
yeah,
She's on correspondence. Go
Close the
ahead.
meeting, or?
We have correspondence. Anything else? I gave you the budgets.
Abstaining.
while I'm thinking about it, we haven't, slipping from my mind again is what's going on with community gardens, if anything, this year. And I guess
They're running their gardens like
Are
they
they?
do every year.
Okay,
I
great.
guess I'm not in touch with anybody from the garden.
I see Rick
Anymore.
Tufts occasionally comes
You do?
in, I have to sign off on any payments,
Yep.
so I usually have a quick,
I think they did their irrigation thing at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
so I think they're starting up and they're getting their plots
Okay.
rented out, and it's the beginning of the new season, so.
Is Wally still involved? Or
They
did he-
moved to Southampton,
He's got
so
his
I don't
own
farm
believe
now, I
that's-
think.
I know,
Yeah.
I wondered if that would.
Yeah, I think both he and Julie have stepped down. I think they're actively looking for new members. I did have one meeting, I was here for something else. Shocker, really. I can't, but there were some new faces that I hadn't seen at a garden meeting, so I think they're trying to recruit some new folks.
We get the meeting minutes on our commission's email. If you'd like, I can distribute them.
Oh.
If you're interested in reading them.
Yeah,
If you don't mind.
a couple, send me
Add
a
it to the
couple,
list.
a couple weeks worth or something.
Well,
Well, they just started meeting again. I mean, they hadn't
Oh.
met all winter because there was nothing to meet on, so I think they just had their first meeting like a month ago, just to kick off the new season, so.
yeah, and plus I just delete them usually, so I can't even give you backup ones.
But you could get them to the Barbara if you needed them, if you really wanted.
All right.
It just occurred to me now that, hey, let's go, I saw that orchard. and-
Well, and they're also on the budget, so I mean, you get those budget sheets and their purchases are all listed on there. So that's kind of a way for you, from a financial standpoint, to kind of keep track what they're up to. But that's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so correspondence there, we received something about, so we received the link to the Pan Am Railroad yearly operational plan, if anyone wants to look it up. Right of way, along the railroad tracks, the section that goes
By Route 5.
Route 5, that tiny section that's actually in East Hampton. They're required to have a yearly operational plan. for vegetation management along the tracks, and this will tell you how they plan on doing it, if you were so inclined.
Speaking of links, I haven't set it up yet, but I did get the handbook, the conservation handbook. So I
Yes.
have an email access, I just need to
Okay.
set up the account, and I haven't done it yet. And once I set it up with the password and stuff, I will email it all out to you, and you will have glorious access to
At all hours.
on all hours of the day, reading the handbook.
Great, okay, so anything else, really? City council agenda for Wednesday night, anyone want to go? I already have a meeting Wednesday night, do you want to go? Do you want to do the agenda?
Let's go.
I might attend.
You might attend.
Will I be Wednesday night? I'll be in Huntington, sorry. So if anyone wants to take a look, you can take a look. Bunch of notifications from ZBA. I have a question for you, Jessica, on this special permit amendment application for 30 Fort Hill Road.
Mm-hmm.
Is
The brewery.
It's for, I know it's the brewery,
Mhm.
and none of the brewery itself was in riverfront area, correct?
Mm-mm.
It's more than 200 feet from the,
You would have gone, they would have gone through a process with you, right? Yeah.
that's what I assumed.
Yeah, they
So-
went through planning board.
So then the beer garden they're proposing is not.
This is a beer garden?
They're,
Come to East
they're,
Hampton?
Site
Please
visit?
note that
Oh
the
my
beer.
God, yes. I think
Okay,
that'll
maybe
be a
it's a
site
good thing
visit.
it's not in our
and a
jurisdiction.
and a fire pit,
Oh my,
possibly.
Wait, Fort Hill Brewery?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
right?
All right.
I think we should
So we
have
don't
some,
like that.
Which is why there's a
Right.
special permit amendment to notify all the butters that this is
Yeah.
happening.
oh, that sounds amazing. I'm really excited about
No
that.
Wetlands Protection Act jurisdiction.
If you ever need to
no.
find me,
Yeah.
I
that's
mean, do you
where
want
I'm
to
headed.
confirm that and look at a map?
Can we just have our
That-
meetings
I,
there?
I recall it at
Let's
the
do
time
that.
Okay.
when they
Why
were
do we have to
going
meet
to build
here?
it.
Yeah, all in favor? Wow. That's gonna be dangerous.
Thank you, Jay.
Just see who's followed the rail trail home.
There
Seriously.
All right, so, that being said, is there anything else to discuss? Anyone? Bueller? All right, that being said, would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
All right.
I thought we were going into it for a second.
We're just gonna hang out.